Hi, good morning everyone, and thanks for joining us on our webinar this morning. So my name's Neil and I'm a technical consultant here at AMS, and I'm joined by my colleague Damien, who will be taking us through a demo shortly. And today I'm going to talk about how people currently store files and some of the challenges we come across, and how using a simple and effective document management solution can really help overcome these issues for as little as £150 a month. I'll try and keep the slides down to a minimum and get to the demo as quickly as possible, and we'll be offering this presentation document as a handout PDF, so you can refer back to it at a later stage. If you do have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat window on the right, and we'll cover them at the end. So where do you currently store your documents? And documents are stored in different places that you can refer to as and when you need them, and whether it be in physical or digital format. And I've covered these in and categorized them in four main areas that we commonly see. So most companies have physical storage, be it in filing cabinets or archive boxes, and whether they're stored on or off site. And we do get a lot of people using email, and really as an ad hoc document management system. You may have a shared network drive which everyone accesses centrally, and you may also be storing local copies on your computer. So in relation to these storage practices, we do find that there are common issues experienced. So in regards to space, physical copies must be stored somewhere in filing cabinets and archive boxes, and these can take up valuable space within the office. And if you have to find something, you have to search through all of those different reference points to find the piece of paper that you need. In regards to access, if you're storing these documents in email folders, maybe on the network or your local computer, how do you provide a single point of access to all of that information? And what generally happens as a result is duplication. People make copies of files. They might store a local copy on their computer or network share, or in their email where they can refer back to it as well. With this comes version control. All of these copies floating around the office, how do you know which is the right one to use? And managing version control with lots of different copies is almost impossible. So we're just going to take you through a short demonstration of DocuWare, the document management solution, and Damien, my colleague, is just going to do that now.
Great, thanks Neil. So the document management software that we provide and support is called DocuWare. Now it's a very comprehensive suite of software, but today we're just going to focus on using the software as a digital archive for simple storage and retrieval. Now, as you can see, in order to access and use DocuWare, all you need is a web client. You don't need to install any software, which means you can safely access your documents wherever you are. All you need is an internet connection. There's also a mobile app if you want to use your phone or tablet, which is available on both iOS and Android. So if we go through the web browser, we can see there are different tabs along the top. Sorry, just reloading the web client here. So if we go along the web browser, you can see the different tabs along the top. And we start off with document trays. So this is where documents are captured, ready to be indexed and stored. Then we have the search tab, where you can select the filing cabinet you would like to search. So you can see here, I've got 3 filing cabinets set up for the demo today. And then you can enter the search criteria to quickly find your documents in the index fields below. We also have lists, which is where you can save searches that you might want to perform on a regular basis. And then there's folders, which is just a different way of browsing your files, but in some situations it might make more sense, like human resources, and you can see that kind of here. There's also a tab for tasks. Now, tasks is a way to manage workflow actions that can help automate common administration actions within the business, but today we're just focusing on DocuWare as a digital archive. So I'm going to start off with capture and store. So let's say you have a physical document and you need to capture that into DocuWare, so you're going to scan that. And so we have a general scan folder here. Now I don't have a scanner connected to the computer, so I've just got some files here. So if I mimic the process and just drag one of these files over, so we can pretend that we've just scanned that into the scan folder. As you can see, that file's disappeared. So DocuWare has an import app which you can configure to monitor different folders and capture those documents automatically into your document tray, ready for storing. And we can see the little pop-up to say that the job's finished. So if we go back into our document tray, you should see the document that we've just scanned appearing in our basket ready for storing. So this is the lease contract that we've just stored. Now, when documents are captured, DocuWare uses something called OCR, which is optical character recognition. And what that does is it turns the content of each of the files into text searchable data. Now, if I go over to the file, I'll just zoom in a bit, and I hover over some of these words, because the document has been OCR'd, DocuWare is recognizing each of those pieces of text. Now, if I go over and store this document, I can select the kind of digital filing cabinet relating to that document. So for the lease contract, that would be sales. And in here, now these are just the index fields that I've set up. You can have as many or as few as you wish, and whatever information you want to capture is up to you. We can select options from a select list like this, or we can just kind of select the text on the document. So like I said, with OCR, we can now capture that information, which means that you don't have to type it in, and it just saves you time. We've automatically captured today's date. I'm just going to select the client name here and the product and go ahead and store that document. So that's it. That's all that's involved in capturing and storing a physical copy. Now, if you want to import documents that are stored on a local folder or on a network directory, we can just click on the import button. And these are some of the example documents that I use for demos. And we're just going to go here and capture this PDF file. Now we can see that appear in our basket. If you had a bunch of jobs to index and store, you could multi-select those documents. So we've got a performance report and a CV. So I'll just select both of those, click on store and select HR. Now we can again select the document type here, or we could select it from a list. And we just select the first name, last name. Now you can make these fields mandatory or optional, whatever you want to enforce for your policies for indexing and storing these documents. And also, if a document type has been stored before, I can start typing and DocuWare will automatically find the previous entries. So again, this is just for Ralph. So that's as easy as it is to capture and store documents from folders. But another way that you're going to receive information that you might want to store is via email. Now DocuWare has an Outlook plugin which just makes it really quick to store a document straight into DocuWare. So here are some invoices that I've received via email. I can just right click and then select store in DocuWare. So these are invoices, and I'm going to select the finance cabinet. If you wanted to do a bunch in one go, you could select your document tray and then kind of index them later. But this way I can store them directly into the finance filing cabinet in one go. You can see down the bottom we have a few options. So you can store the email, the attachment, or both. And I'm just going to store the attachment only. Now, because this is an invoice, and let's say you might be monitoring those invoices, I'm going to select the status of pending. Now, once you've stored the document, DocuWare can delete the attachment or the whole email, or just leave it in your email and mark it as stored in DocuWare. So now we've covered storing documents from physical scans, network folders, and email. The next stage I was going to go through was search and retrieval. So let's say a customer has called in questioning an invoice. So what we can do is, within a few clicks, we can search that invoice. So if I click on searches and select the finance filing cabinet, we can select document type of invoice. We can drill down to the particular company who's questioning the invoice. You can see there's other kind of fields here, so store date, document number, status, that kind of thing. But we're just going to quickly search for that particular document. And we can see on the right-hand side here, we can also open the Toolbox. So this gives us a few different tools that we can use. So if we're answering a query, maybe the next thing to do is to email that document to the person making that query. So that's just an example of quick and easy search and retrieval in order to answer a query. So rather than having to make a note of what you want to find, going off and searching through filing cabinets and archive boxes, and then kind of getting back to the customer, it's just a quick and easy way of doing that all in one go while you're still on the phone. Now, if we haven't been able to find the document using those index fields, there's also an option for full text search. So because we've OCR'd the document and we know all of the data contained within those documents, we can use full text search to find any word in any document. So if I go to the sales filing cabinet, and let's say we're looking for the word DeWalt, we can see here, this is the lease contract that we stored earlier. And you can see the word DeWalt highlighted for you as well. There's also options here to step through the document. So if you wanted to find other iterations of that particular word, you can kind of search through every single instance. So those are the options for searching with keywords and also full text, but sometimes it might make more sense just to browse to a folder. And one situation we often see this is in HR. So I've got a few different folder views set up here. Now, the documents aren't actually stored like this in a set folder structure. So what we're doing is we're using index fields to create this virtual folder structure. You can actually create any number of virtual folder structures you like, depending on how you want to browse those documents, including multiple views per filing cabinet. So you can see here, I've got 2 for sales. I've got 1 for by client name, because you might want to just browse those particular documents like that. Here I've got by document type. And in HR, I've just got them listed by name. So Ralph Cadman, these are a couple of documents that we just stored earlier, and we can see that CV that we captured. So the next thing I was going to show was version control and audit history, because sometimes it can be really tricky to know which copy of a file is the one you should be working on, especially if there are multiple copies stored in different locations. And I think we all do this where we have share copies on a network drive, and then we kind of store local copies on our computer, and we're not too sure which one's the most up to date. So if you have a single copy stored in DocuWare, we can go and search that document. So as an example, let's use the lease contract, and say if we were going to make a change, we could then check that out. Now what we'd normally do is check it out to the filing system, open it up in the native application like Word or whatever it might be, make those changes, and then you check it back into your basket. So I'm just going to check out to the basket to make that process a bit quicker. Then if we go to my basket, here we can see the document that's been checked out, and we can check that document back in. So when we check it back in, we have an option of choosing a major or a minor version change. So if I just say that's a minor version change, add some comments, and check that back in. And all of that becomes a history of the document. So anybody in the future looking for that document can see which version it is, any of the comments that have been made, that kind of thing. So to show that, if I go back to the lease contract, so this is the one that we've just checked back in. And we've got an option here for version overview. So this way we can see the original version, the current version. We can also see the different comments so that we can make sure that whatever document we're working from is the latest release. Now another important thing is audit history. So DocuWare records every single action and who was responsible for that action. So if we have a look at the document history here, we can see who's opened a document, who's edited a document, and who's checked out that document. But as you can see, there's a full audit history for anyone to refer to in the future. So we've kind of covered storing documents, searching for documents, and version control. Oh, there was one last thing I was going to show on the version control. If you have made a change, maybe you need to request authorization for that change. And DocuWare has something called a send request. This is like an ad hoc workflow. So we can select a user. Let's say I want to send this for authorization to my finance director. We can type in some information to describe why we want authorization and some decisions, and just click on send. So we've covered storing documents, searching for documents, folder browsing, and kind of version control. There was one last thing that I wanted to cover, which is something called intelligent indexing. Now this is a bit outside of the scope of simple storage retrieval, but it's a great way to use the content of a document to automatically capture index information. So if we go to our document trays, you'll see I've got one for intelligent indexing. Now these documents have had the intelligent indexing engine run on them and trying to figure out what they are and capture the information. And as you can see, there's a bit of a traffic light system going on to show the confidence that the information has been captured. So if I click on this particular document, excuse me, and store that, and this one with the light bulb next to it is just the one that's set up for intelligent indexing. Now you can see DocuWare has accurately captured all of the index information automatically, and if I click on the different fields, DocuWare highlights them so that I can visually check them on the right hand side to make sure they're correct, and then just click on store. But it just makes that whole process of indexing, storing documents really quickly. And if you wanted to go even further, there's also options to export this data to other systems, but for today that's kind of a bit out of scope. Now, I've only showed a very small amount of what DocuWare can do. So if you have any questions or you would like to see something else in the next web session, you can let us know in the feedback form, which will go out after the webinar. And now I'll hand you back to Neil.
Great, thanks, Damien. So what we're suggesting here is really a single central digital archive. So one single place to manage all of your documents. And if you are scanning and indexing all the documents into a digital archive, there's no need to store further copies of physical paper, so you really can eliminate the filing cabinets and archive boxes. There's integration with email, as Damien demonstrated, so you can capture those important emails and attachments. And because you're storing everything in a single and central archive, you only need to store one copy of that document. For security, everything is controlled via logon access and granular permissions, so only the right people have access to the information they should. And there's a vast array of tools and utilities which Damien touched on in the demo, and these can really help you automate the mundane tasks and help free up time for your users to focus on their real work rather than administration. Brilliant. So that's kind of concludes the webinar. We really appreciate your time you've taken out of your day to join us today. Everything we have shown in the demo is achievable for £150, including setup, a month. If you're interested in the intelligent indexing or advanced workflow, this is something we can also discuss further. We will be sending out a follow-up email with our contact details and also options for you to request a trial or even arrange a call to talk about this further. But for now, we are going to go through any questions. If you do have any further questions, just as a reminder, you can post these on the panel on the right-hand side, but we're just going to see if there's any now that we can answer for you. Okay. So can you integrate with Sage software? So the answer in short is yes. We actually have developed an export app that allows you to capture a varying amount of index data from the documents that you're storing. And this can be exported from DocuWare to a CSV file, which can be picked up by Sage and obviously update any records within Sage itself. So we've basically done that before, so that can be used for that purpose.
Cool. So the next question is, can you put a date on a document for it to be deleted? Yes, absolutely. Well, there are multiple different dates that get related to a document. So the date that it's stored is automatically applied to a document. You might also select a document date as well. And DocuWare has automatic housekeeping features to manage things like retention policies. And you can kind of configure these in quite a detailed way. So you could select all of the, let's say, proofs of identity for a particular subset of users to be deleted within 3 years of them being stored or 3 years of their valid date. Or you can actually use due dates if you set those to a particular document in order to trigger those retention periods and deletion periods. Yeah, so there's really quite sophisticated deletion policies available in DocuWare. There was another one for how reliable is the OCR? Well, OCR, as long as it can see the information and the information is typed, it's pretty much 100%. The only times when it might have difficulty is sometimes on very faded information from impact printers, but pretty much 100% on normal typed information as long as it's visible. Here's a question on the intelligent indexing. It's something we touched on. I know we were looking at this as a simple storage retrieval solution for £150 a month. But we did kind of show one of the key features of DocuWare, which is intelligent indexing. Now, intelligent indexing doesn't actually cost any more with DocuWare Cloud. DocuWare Cloud includes all of the core functionality. So there's actually quite a lot you can achieve with DocuWare Cloud. And the offer that we've been promoting today for £150 a month includes a limited amount of setup, basically. So if you were interested in intelligent indexing or data capture or workflows, these are all included with DocuWare Cloud. We just need to figure out how much time it would take to set that up for you.
Can this be used in any department? Well, the simple answer is yes. DocuWare is modelled around being a business-wide solution. I mean, in terms of where it's a good fit or good place to start, normally it's either in HR or finance, but you'll find as the solution gets rolled out in those departments, that it does indeed get rolled out throughout the business where necessary.
Yeah, so sure. I mean, pretty much any department that's document heavy. One of the questions here: does DocuWare have reliable storage and backup of information? So DocuWare is a German company that's been around for a long time, I think since 1992, and they have a very well-established network of servers for resiliency and also failover. So their main data servers in Dublin provide the initial point of access, but there's also failover and backups in Amsterdam. They've also got some very high-profile clients, including people like Levi's, Lexus, IKEA. So as you can imagine, DocuWare really have a very robust and resilient infrastructure in the background managing all of that information. So I think maybe one last question, one of the questions here: what functionality is included in the offer? I touched on this with intelligent indexing, but DocuWare Cloud includes pretty much everything. It includes all the core functionality. The only thing it doesn't include is the export app that we created that Neil touched on earlier, which is a great way of exporting information, importing that data into other systems. So for what functionality is included in the offer, pretty much everything. We would just need to talk about what you want to get out of it and figure out some options for you. There were a couple more, but maybe we'll kind of get back to those individually. So I think maybe we'll wrap this up now. Thanks a lot for everyone's time today. Like Neil said, there'll be an email follow-up going out to everyone with a quick survey. We'd really appreciate it if you could fill out the details on there. But thank you much again for everyone's time.
Thanks very much.